In honor of our health and wellness week, I thought we'd share some of our tips and things we've learned in cooking in our tiny home for the past 10 months. So here are our top cooking tips for cooking healthy in an Airstream. So I'm going to make dinner while I do this. One of the tips, as I'm getting stuff out right now, that we would say is store things where they make the most sense to you. And so some things are hard, like the cutting board and the pan I'm about to get out. We actually store them in the oven. And what that means is, since I'm about to use the oven, I gotta get everything out that we store in there. But that's okay, because most of the time we're not using the oven and it doesn't matter. Speaking of using the oven, another tip is cook for the season. So in the summer, when it was super hot here in Arizona and we didn't even want to think about cooking in the Airstream, that didn't mean we went out and got takeout, because that would defeat our budget and our health. Instead, we cooked everything on the grill. And by everything I mean nachos, rice, all sorts of things on our grill. Now that it's cold outside, we cook everything we can in the Airstream, and specifically in the oven if we can, because the oven heats up the entire Airstream. It's like having a propane furnace running or something. So if we can cook it in the oven, we're going to cook it in the oven. And we have a number of tips when it comes to that as well. If you're going to be trying to cook multiple ways, make sure you have pans that can do that. We have some cast iron pans that can go on any surface and cook any of the surfaces we have. We also have this cake pan, and it's old and disgusting looking, I'm sorry for that, but we use this to cook rice, we use this to cook bacon, we use this to bake cakes, we use this to roast vegetables, we use this to make nachos. Things that a lot of people would use a cookie sheet for, we use this because why not? And it's one pan, and it can go in the oven or it can go on the grill. So, multi-purpose. Tin foil is a great thing for when you're trying to go do more boondocking. You don't want to use as much water. Just coat your pan in tin foil and bake away. Obviously, that's not going to work for everything, but it works really well for stuff like roasting vegetables, which is what we're doing tonight. Another tip, try to keep everything, well, this is much easier in a tiny kitchen, but try to keep everything that you might need to use readily accessible. And that is why things are where they are in our kitchen, so that I can just reach up and grab what we need and not have to go digging under in drawers or anything for some of the things that we use more often than others. So tiny kitchens like this don't exactly come with a huge amount of counter space. We want to have as much as possible when we're cooking, because it just makes everything easier. And so not only do we have one of our sinks covered right now, but we also cleared off the countertop before we started cooking. And that just makes it so much easier. When you have such a small amount of space, you need to maximize it as best you can. If Steve were helping me cook, he would most likely be on our little end counter unit. We would have pulled that up and used that as well. Another tip on the health side of things is sometimes you're supposed to go to the grocery store to get whatever you need to cook for the evening, and you're just exhausted and you just go home, or you have a migraine like I get. And on days like that, it's really tempting to just eat junk and pick up fast food. And that, again, is going to blow the budget and the health. And so what we do is we keep certain things in the Airstream at all times. Black beans. We always have black beans. Onions. And sweet potatoes in bulk. We also keep a giant thing of pickled jalapenos, some salsa, and some hot sauce in the fridge at all times. And so what this does is that, along with some hash browns, just that you just heat up with hot water from Costco. So what this does is that we have this combination of things that we can make just like a Mexican potato something with beans. And I know that doesn't sound amazing, but it's actually really good because it's all of our favorite things, and it prevents us from picking up some crap on the way home. So that is a tip. A tip having to do with tiny living is to use as few things as possible when cooking. So tonight's meal is going to be the cutting board and the knife, this pan, which hopefully the tin foil will protect so we won't have to wash it. And then if I was prepping something and I needed to use one of our big bowls, I would use it, and then one of us would eat out of it. I know that's not like the most gourmet or the prettiest thing, but it's one less bowl to make. And so what we often do is, if we don't need a bowl that big for prep, we'll prep right into our little white bowls. And then once we're done with the prepping and everything gets put into the pot or whatever, we'll use the bowl to eat. And we do that a lot. And saves washing, and might mean that we eat out of bowls a little bit more than we did in the past, but I think it works out well. Another tip that has to do along the same lines with using the same or as few utensils and dishes as possible is, in order to do that, you need to kind of think about your recipe and in what order you're doing things. You may need to change the order up than what you're used to. This took a little bit for me. But for instance, we already used this cutting board and this knife to cut all the veggies, which are now in the oven. And now I can prep the cilantro and the green onions for the quinoa because it is free. Similarly, if you're going to use the same bowl for prep as for eating, you just need to kind of think the whole process through so that your cutting board's not full of stuff and now the thing you actually need to get cooking can't get cut up and you need to get another cutting board or whatever. So it takes a little bit of practice, but less dishes for everyone means happy us. Dinner is done, and so I think with that we're going to end this video. If you have any cooking suggestions for us on how to cook healthy and stay healthy, or cook and live in a small space like this, please leave it in the comments below. And as always, if you like the video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more tips and tricks on tiny living and health in the future. Bye guys!